So yeah, so for part one, we did where's my mouse? Part one, we did just some research into the prices of houses. You looked at the cost of 20 houses. Part two, you went to this website and then you used that module 5 there. Oops, you used module 5 to answer all of these questions. It went from chronological order, so from the start to the end. Pretty much everything there kind of comes like word from word. Now I'm going to be taking some of this stuff. Now, who here has gotten at least partway through that? Has anyone here gotten partway through part 2 of this? Not yet. Okay, so you'll get some time to do that today. So once part 2 is finished, so part 3 and part 4 is where we're going to be spending some time. You're going to be going through the process of fake buying a house. So we can get a really good understanding of what is it like to be a first-time home buyer. So you will be finding a house. It could be in our area, it could be in the city that you've looked at that meets your needs, and then that's step 3. You're just finding a house. That's part 3. And part 3 is just put in some of the information, like it has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it's located in Wadena. It was built in 1970. That's so just some basic information. Part 4 is you're going to be generating a report on this. Now I'll help you with this. We'll get to this later. I'm going to come back to this later, but that's just the overall process. So we went from just looking up some prices to learning a lot about mortgages to finding a house, and then we're going to be fake buying that house and making a report on it. That's what this is in 4 steps. And again, we'll be visiting this step by step. If you guys are still on part 2, then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pause this. So mortgages. When you buy, sorry, before I even get there, did I tell you guys how I bought my property? Basically a game show. All right, so story time. So I bought my property last summer. I was just looking around, just kind of scouting. I didn't get a pre-approval or anything yet. So there was a house that just came on the market. I just got off work and I messaged them at lunch. Hey, is it okay if I come take a look? It's about 4:45 p.m. Time's really important with this. So 4:45 p.m. So I arrive there at 4:45 p.m. to take a look at the house. Right away, I knock on the door. There's this really, really sweet old lady there. She's just watching The Price is Right, the old Bob Barker stuff. And the realtor meets me, and the first thing she says is, just so you know, there's been an offer put on the house, and we need to respond to it at 5 p.m. So someone said, hey, I'll give you this much money for that house. They are legally obligated. They have no choice. They have to tell that person yes, or they have to tell that person no. So right away, I had a 15-minute window to look at the house, do some quick math in my head, and make an offer on it if I wanted it. So we run through the house as quick as I can. In hindsight, there's a lot of stuff that we missed, a lot of stuff I didn't consider. And then I'm sitting up front and we're just talking, like, you know, I'm talking, I think I had my mom with me at the time. So her and I were talking to the realtor, we knew her. And then around the corner, because I'm on a corner lot, there comes this couple, and they're just doing this. They're just kind of looking out the window at the property, like they're scouting it out. Like the thing just came on the market. There's already an offer on it. There's been a couple people who've looked at it that day. It's going, like it's gone right away. So I had at that point 5 minutes. Are you gonna take it or are you gonna leave it? So I decided to do a bid on it. This is where it gets tricky. Again, all I know is so that the sticker price is like, let's just say 150,000, because that's what we have on there in a second. Let's just say 150 grand, nice easy number. That's how much they were selling for. When you make an offer on a house, you can barter. You can say, I'll give you 145. I'll give you 130. I'll give you 160. I'll give you more than what you want. But you'll see that a lot in yours, actually.
Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta was huge for people bidding over the price war and people willing to pay way more than was being asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy like that. So I had 5 minutes. I decided I was going to make an offer. I already had a rough estimate of how much it would be approved for. But here's the thing. I'm now bidding against someone else who has an offer in. I want my offer to be higher than theirs,
But I also don't want to be like, I'll give you 300 grand, right? I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. So I actually did asking price, which is like, no one ever does asking price. Everyone always barters with houses. Good thing you brought up bartering, actually.
Yeah.
We're doing that a couple
Well,
times today.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did asking price and they approved it. In hindsight, I could have got a lot lower because I mean, the realtor wasn't supposed to tell this, but they're like, yeah, the other person did like I forget the word she used, but they did a super low offer. They were trying to get it for cheap. And the super old lady, they want it gone. Her kids want to put her into a home. They want that house gone. So I probably could have got a better deal on it, but that's how I came to get my house. Is I felt like a game show. Like, you ever watch a game show and it's like, do this thing, you idiot. Like the person up there is just being a moron. It's like, this is the obvious thing they should do. No, I totally get it. Like the pressure. Oh my God, you don't think. Anyway, so that's how I bought my property. That's kind of what we're talking about today. So of course, when you buy a property, you usually do called a mortgage. That's just a really big loan, right? It's a house loan. And you usually work with realtors. What's realtor's job? What one sentence description? What do they do? Electricians, they work with electricity and wiring. Carpenters, they work with like wood and like building floors. What does a realtor do? Best guess.
They work to sell property.
Yeah, they sell houses, right? They're the people who sell houses. What does the car salesman do? They sell cars. Realtors sell houses. So when we first came back to this on Monday, we had this list, and I didn't expect more than this list. The cost of buying a house. Mortgage, that's the loan. The down payment, you have to give an upfront amount of money. They want to make sure that you're able to save enough money, right? They don't want you to buy a property, not be able to afford it, because then they have to take the property back. It's expensive. It's an annoying process. So down payment is, hey, I have a little bit of that money saved up. Anyone remember what the minimum amount is? In a percentage. You remember what that was? 5%. Yeah. You have to pay at least 5% on a down payment. So you have $100,000 house, you need to have $5 grand. Boom, here you go. Then the other thing we came up with was utility hookups, right? If I want internet, if I want power, if I want natural gas, I have to call those companies. They have to come hook it up. They have to transfer that stuff. Sometimes that's free. Sometimes that costs money. So we're going to give you a scenario here. You need to calculate in a second, but here's your scenario. So let's imagine you've worked really hard. You've saved up 10 grand. Very hard to do right now, as we've learned with inflation last block or 2 blocks ago. So you contact a realtor. You go to a person who sells houses, right? When you guys were all looking up those prices of all those things, you went to realtor websites. There are realtors, house salespeople who go on there, manage those sites, upload the stuff. You notice how most of the pictures looked really, really nice. That's their point. They're trying to sell it, right? They don't want to take a picture of a dirty house. They open up all the blinds, turn on all the lights, make it look nice and clean. Usually it looks bigger than it actually is. So you look at a property, let's say it's 155 grand. That's how much that property costs. And you make an offer 150. You bartered that, right? They accept. Your seller accepts that $150,000. I will give you this house for $150,000. Perfect. You go to a bank or a mortgage broker, those are your 2 people, to get financing, right? That's where you say, hey, I'd like to take out a loan for $150,000. Can you give me a mortgage for that? Sure, here's a 25-year loan for that. And you're set to move in 2 months if you can finance that. So you will take possession of that house in 2 months if you can finance that. Now, I want to take a step back. Now that we've had a little bit of time to go through some of the that stuff, were there any other costs we could think of before I move forward? Because we've looked at a couple other ones now, specifically in part 2.
When you buy a house,
Yeah, or involved with acquiring a house, yes.
the realtor is going to need to get paid.
There's a good one, realtor fees.
The bank to charge you to do your paperwork and interest on the amount of money you borrow.
Yeah, you don't get that 150 grand for free, right? You're taking that out, you're paying the interest, right? That's the privilege you get for borrowing that money. You pay a little bit extra back to that, a little bit more than a little bit now, like 5% now at least. So here's a couple examples here. So this is all in that part 2 stuff that you've done. Now I'm going to break down all of this stuff as we go. Property inspection. It's exactly what it sounds like, right? You're going to hire someone who's professional to come and look at your house. They're going to be able to tell you these are the problems with it, right? And it's going to be stuff that you're not going to be good enough at houses to look at. Just straight, like, they'll be able to tell you, yeah, your nails and your shingles, they're going to rot. Your attic, it's not ventilated enough. You need to get that fixed. You see this thing here in the corner of your house, that's water damage. You need to, get your stuff graded so the water goes away from the house. Stuff like that, right? You're probably not qualified enough. Even if you have a really good person who's good with their hands and works with a lot of stuff, there's going to be stuff they're not going to see. That's their job. So they're going to give you a property inspection. And this is really nice because what happens if you put an offer on a house and all they did was there's black mold and they just put a coat of white paint on it? What do you think is going to happen to that deal? What if I tell you, Jasmine, hey, I'll buy your car, and then I go to show up, you give me the keys, doesn't start. There's no engine in the car. What do you think I'm going to do? Well, you've ripped me off. You just sold me a car with no engine. I'm not going to pay you, right? I'm going to demand my money back. If you buy a property and it is in condition that it's not in a sellable condition, the deal's bust. Okay, you do not need to pay if you don't want to.
It depends.
Yeah.
If I sell you my car and I say, selling it as is, here's my car, and you don't ask me, Darlene, does your car have an engine? Does your car start? And you buy it off me on Kijiji and you transfer me money. You didn't ask me those questions. I'm selling it as is. Technically, you still owe me for my, because you should have come and looked at it, done your due diligence to make sure. Does it have an engine? Does it start, right? Yeah. So there's a little bit of it. Yeah, it's more complicated than that, of course, but like water damage. I looked at a house 2 years ago that had water damage. I'm talking like there was water in the basement up to here. You could see it on the walls. They didn't disclose that. So no one said anything about it. It was pretty obvious, of course, looking at it. But if I would have put an offer, house inspector came in like, yeah, there's like water damage, there's mold. I probably could have gotten out of that deal because I've made an offer. I'm now obligated. Hey, I said I'd give you 150 grand for this house. I have to go through with that unless there's a couple roadblocks in the way. One's a property inspection. One is I actually can't afford it, so on and so forth. So there's a property inspection. That ranges, usually $300, $400, $500, stuff like that. I forget how much I paid. Nice, easy number. I'm going to say that's $500. I'll put all these numbers up on the screen in a bit, okay? But that's what a property inspection is. Now, the lawyers, they have to look at this because, of course, lawyers have to be involved, right? So lawyers are going to look at this. They're going to charge you, I don't know, like, let's say like $1,500, like, because they have to, there's some legal stuff involved. They have to make sure all the paperwork's good because when you take out that mortgage, for example, you want to make sure that you're not getting ripped off. So lawyers have to look at everything. You're going to have, remember what that is, that mortgage loan insurance premium. Let's break it down. So the mortgage loan, that's the loan for the house, right? What does it mean when you have insurance on a loan? What does it mean you just have insurance? Austin, best guess? What's insurance? What's insurance? Not quite. A down payment is involved with it. So mortgage, loan, and insurance. So mortgage, loan, insurance premium. If I don't have a big enough down payment, hey, I've saved up 10 grand. That's a lot of money.
but I'm buying a way more expensive house, right? Bank wants to make sure that I can afford that. If I can't afford that house, the bank's going to take the house back for sure, but they've lost money just doing business with me. All this stuff is expensive. So what they do is there's insurance on there. Hey, if you, the buyer, cannot pay for this house, you default on your payments. This is something in place to protect you, to protect me, the bank, the lender. So if you're paying a premium, you're paying extra money as insurance on that loan. So that will charge you, oh gosh, that will cost you, hold on, I actually have a website here. Bear with me. So there's lots of online calculators for this. Ooh. There's lots of online calculators for this, but let's say, for example, I did a 5% down payment, the minimum amount I can do. I'm a first-time home buyer. I don't have tens of thousands of dollars saved. And I did a $150,000 house. I'm paying this much in insurance, right? That is the cost of getting that mortgage when I don't have a huge down payment. And remember what percentage that insurance goes away, where they're like, you know what, we trust you enough. We think you're going to get through the payment. Anyone remember what that was? It's higher than 5%, of course. Any guesses? When do I need to stop paying insurance on that loan? So you're thinking maybe 100%? Okay. Any other guesses? Thinking 80%? You said, sorry? Half, so 50. Good guesses. It's 20%, right? So once you can do a 20% down payment, you've bought a fifth of that house. They trust you enough. Okay, you saved up like 50 grand. So then there's the sales tax on your property. There's only two things true in life: death and taxes, right? So when you buy a property, you pay tax on that land. You're paying tax on it. So that's usually about 1%. Of the cost, and that is usually only on brand new properties. So I went to buy my house, right? My house is already standing. There's already someone living in it. Do you think I paid sales tax on that house? No, it's not a brand new house, right? It's an older house. Been there for 50 years. I don't have to pay sales tax on it. It's not a brand new house. Then of course I have my land title fee. So this is when, so there's like, those people who like drive graders on like grid roads and stuff. They're the RM managers. In your RM, you have a list of, like, hey, in this section of land, Austin owns that part of the land. Annika owns that land over there, right? So you can look at a map and you can be, and you can say that, hey, this person's owns it. So that's what that is, that land title fee. Hey, this is saying that you, Austin, now own this farm that you just bought. Or, hey, this is that me, Matthew, now owns this house I just bought. So that's usually going to be, it's $25 plus 0.3% of the purchase price. In this case, it's $60. Not that expensive. For the land title fee, this is when you add that lender's mortgage to the title. Because remember, so who owns that house? So that 150 grand house that you just put an offer on, who owns that house? The person selling it. And then after you put the offer through, they agree, hey, I'll sell the house. You take out a loan for 95% because you only paid 5%. Who owns that house? The bank does. That's right, because you only own 5% of that house. The bank's giving the other 95% of that money. So you don't own diddly squat yet, right? So that's adding them to the title. That's free in Saskatchewan. You pay nothing for it in Saskatchewan, okay? There's the property tax. Property tax, right? So this is the city of Humboldt. That's where I live. They charge me money. That money goes to pay for, putting the water pipes to connect to my house, paving the road in front of my house, clearing the snow in front of my house, stuff like that. It's just the taxes of doing business in a place. This is something we learned about last block, I think. And then we have the realtor fees. So realtors, they sell houses, right? They don't do it for free. So what they do, and this is different everywhere you go, but in Saskatchewan, this is usually going right. So you pay 4% on that first 100 grand. What's 4% of 100 grand? 4 grand. You're paying $4,000 to that realtor. You sell a 100 grand house, 4,000 of that, boom, you paid that to the realtor. Then 2% of that above everything else. So I pay 4% on that first 100K, 2% on everything else. If I'm selling, I'm not selling, I'm buying. I don't pay any realtor jack. I don't play them jack squat. Because realtors work with people who sell the houses. So 150 grand house, 4% on the first 100K, that's 4,000, 2% on the rest of the 50K. That's an extra 1 grand, 5 grand. Cost that seller, that old lady, old ancient lady who's watching Prices Right, cost her 5 grand to sell that with the realtor. Why the heck do people use realtors? Actual question, why do we use realtors? You don't have to, but a lot of people do. It's okay to guess. I'm not expecting you to know. Any guesses? Why is that old lady paying 5 grand to a realtor to help sell her house when she can just list it on Facebook and do it herself? Sorry? They have more experience. That's one part of it for sure. That's their job, right? They have more experience. That's a good answer. There's other parts to it. Any other guesses? They have more experience. How'd you guys all look up houses? When you went to go look up the prices of 20 houses, where'd you find that information? Online, on websites. You looked at realtors' websites. It costs me nothing as a buyer to go to work with a realtor, a professional, who has a list of, hey, here's 100 houses I'm selling right now. So as a buyer, I want to go to the realtor. Does that look easy? Did you navigate that by yourself? I couldn't. I didn't know about half that crap when I went to buy a house. So I want to work with a realtor when I buy a house. And so all the people who want to buy houses, where are they going? They're going to realtors. So yeah, if you want to sell a house, you're going to go to the people who all the people who are buying them to. You're going to the realtor because that's who attracts all the customers, right? It's like if I'm Ford, I put my cars through the car dealership because that's where people go to buy cars. You think about it in that way. So they have experience selling. They can get you a good price for it. So you know, hey, I have a lot of experience selling houses. I'm going to try and get you, because this is my job as a realtor. Austin, you're selling your house. You're going to list me as a realtor. My job is to get you the best money I can get you. So even though it's costing you 5 grand to do it, maybe I can make up that 5 grand. Maybe I'll just make it easier. This is a headache. This is a pain in the ass to deal with. They're going to help you through all of this because not only are you selling your property, you're probably buying another one too. So they'll help you with all of that. That's not easy stuff. It's annoying. It's long. It's complicated. You have to read hundreds of pages of documents. They help you with that. Sign here. You see this 10-page thing? This is what it does in these 5 points. You need to set up the utilities. We've gone over that before. Hey, SaskTel, I want internet in my new place. Basic housekeeping. When's the best time to paint a house? Paint a room even. Anyone here ever had to paint like their room or a house? Yeah. And so when you painted it, was it an empty house or did it have stuff in it? Empty. Heck of a lot easier when it's empty, right? If you have stuff in it, you have to move it all out of the way. You have to cover it up because you don't want paint dripping on your bed, for example. So when it's an empty house, holy crap, is that way you go up, put something on the floor, paint the wall, and you're done. So much easier. I want to put that on vibrant or something. Someone's a little desperate for attention. So So you have basic housekeeping. Now, some people buy new furniture, they buy new drapes for their windows, they do some renovations, because the easiest time to ever work on a house is when there's freaking nothing inside of it, right? Because then just boom, everything's out of the way, you don't have to worry about the mess, you can just do it. Done. So you have some basic housekeeping. Even if you're like, I want to do this as cheap as possible, you're never going to find an easier time to pay. There will be something there. And then, of course, it's the cost of moving. Now, most people I know don't spend like 2 or 3 grand to bring like big burly professional movers. Most people don't do that. Most people, when they move, I'm going to put all my crap in boxes. I'm going to put it in garbage bags. I'm going to throw it in the back of a truck. If you have a lot of stuff, your truck is now a U-Haul. That costs some money to rent. It's not that expensive, like maybe $100, $200 if you're driving really far away. You can get it as cheap as 20 bucks. You can get a U-Haul as cheap as $20. But so it costs money, not a lot. Maybe you have to get a trolley, maybe you're moving a fridge, something really heavy. You know, that's that little thing you leverage on. Beer and pizza. Why is this a part of the moving cost? Why did I put that there?
Celebration.
Celebration, that's one. This is the second part of it though. What did we all just go and do earlier before we did this? Hey, help me move. I'll give you beer and pizza, please. It's hard work to move, right? You're moving thousands of pounds of crap into a truck. Maybe it's winter, it's icy. You're packing it all, you're moving it in, you're taking it out, and putting it in and unpacking. That's hard work, takes a lot of time. Heck of a lot easier if I have 4 of my friends, you know, strong guy helping me out, right? Don't have to move that 400-pound fridge by myself. Beer and pizza, you're bartering with your friends, right? Hey, come help me out. It's just one of those things like, you know, it's one of those etiquettes with it. Boxes and tape, stuff like that, right? So that's all that stuff. So now I'm going to give you some prices with it. I know I've been talking a lot. Here's the prices. And before I want to go to these prices, actually, how much money do you have? How much money do you have? Sorry, how much money do you have in this situation? You have 10 grand.
Oh.
You have 10 grand. You have saved diligently over a year or two. That's a lot of money. That takes time and hard work and planning. You've saved 10 grand of money. That's how much money you have for this house. That's your 5% down payment, and that's all of this crap. So my question for you is, $150,000 house, you know you need to pay at least 5% of that, 5% of 150 grand. Really quickly, punch on your calculator. What is that? So 5% of $150,000. So 0.05 times 150,000. Times 150,000. 5% of how much you made that offer for. $7,500. So you know that your down payment that comes from this for that, your down payment, because you need to have 5%. You will never get a house if you don't have 5% down payment. You know that you need to pay $7,500 upfront before any of this other crap. Okay, so let's go into the whole prices here. So down payment 5%, 150 grand, 7,500. So my question for you, all this crap here, can you afford that house now? You have 10 grand. No, you cannot. Even though that down payment, you can easily afford that and have extra. There's all this other crap in the way. Now, the question you're probably thinking is, how the hell do people afford houses? Right? It's expensive to get a house. It's good long-term to buy a house, especially in Saskatchewan, but it is expensive up front. So how the heck do people do that? 10 grand, that's a lot of money. That takes a lot of time. What does that all add up to? I actually don't know. Please add that up. I don't know what that adds up to. So 19,510. And basically 20 grand. So no, you have 10 grand, you can't afford that. Oh, why did it do? Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Okay, screw it, I'm leaving it there. It's breaking stuff otherwise. So this red text, little corner, that's how much all this stuff costs. Now, how the heck do people afford houses? So my question for you is, do you think the government of Canada, of Saskatchewan, do you think they want you to buy a house? They do, because when you buy a house, you're buying an asset, right? So now, instead of paying rent money that goes to someone else, you own this house eventually. After 25 years, you own 150 grand worth of property, right? So it's a good long-term investment usually to buy property. Because when you go to retire, boom, you have that. If you're just paying rent all that time, that money goes nowhere that you have. That's someone else's money. You now own a house you could sell when you're an old lady watching Bob Barker's Price is Right. So government wants you to do it. Why is buying a house hard? Why is it hard? Why is it difficult to buy a house? It's expensive. So how can the government help you buy a house, want you to buy a house, because you're going to have more money. Then you don't need to rely on them. If you, let's say you're really old, you have no savings, government has to take care of you. They want you to buy a house. It's expensive to buy a house. So what they're going to do is they're going to make it easier for you, especially if you're a first-time buyer, right? Because the hardest time, the first house, the hardest house you're ever going to buy is your first house. Because once you've done that, if you've owned a house for 10 years, you own maybe half that house now, something like that. So you now have assets in your name that you can use to buy other houses. So government's going to make it easier for you by removing some fees. First off, this mortgage loan insurance premium. Hey, you don't have a big down payment. This $5,700, they will build this into the mortgage loan. You still pay it, but now it's spread out over maybe 25 years instead of right at the very front. So that's a lot of money taken up. So do your calculators, do that 1,000. So let's quickly. Where's my mouse? So put that in your calculator, $1,510. So next, sorry, $19,510. Have that in your calculator. And you're going to subtract this stuff. We don't need this mortgage loan insurance. If you're paying it, you're not paying it up front. So just take that out. Cut that out. Property taxes, you have to pay them. You don't have to pay them up front. You can build the first year into the mortgage, and then you just pay like I don't know, what is that, like $120, $150 a month. So you can cut that out as an upfront cost. You still have to pay it. Oh yeah, so then you take out this stuff here, 11,160. Now, this stuff here, there's no way to get around it. Like, you have to pay for U-Haul boxes and tape, right? Like you're just gonna have to. It's gonna cost you a little bit of money to move there, the gas to get there. Maybe you have a credit card, maybe you're like, hey man, can I borrow some money? Whatever it is, but this rest of the stuff, this needs to get paid. This is the bare minimum. So my question for you now is, take up all what you can you still afford it? No, because it's like 11 grand, some $100, right? So you still can't afford it. So a lot of people, when they go to buy a house, they think it's just the down payment. It's not. And remember, this is you. This is you as a buyer. You would have to pay the realtors some money if you were selling. That's usually, again, built into the property involved. So this is assuming you're a first-time buyer. Now again, so 11 grand, still really hard. And you have probably, let's imagine that he manages to actually save that extra $1,300. How much money does he have in his account when he pays that $11,300? He's negative. So yeah, he's broke. He's broke, dead, done. Can't do anything else, right? Has the shirt on his back and then a house that he barely was able to afford. That's what he owns now. So again, government wants to take care of you. They want you to buy a house. That they want you to buy one. And they want you to be able to afford it, but they want you to be able to buy one. So again, there's extra things to help you out, especially as a what-time buyer. Last house, second house. first time buyer. First time buyer, there's incentives. Oh, sorry, that's like a monthly cost-ish. Yeah, skip that for now. So you're a first time home buyer, congratulations, here's $1,800. You don't get it outright, you get it on your tax return. Congratulations, 6 months from now, year from now, whenever you file your taxes, you can expect $1,800 as a tax credit there. Cool. Holy crap, down payments are hard to get. This is a statute 150 grand house. Your houses are $1 million, Jasmine, right? The ones you were looking at, you can borrow from your retirement plan. You can borrow money that you have saved up from your retirement plan, comes off your paycheck, it's there. You just have to pay that back in 15 years. I borrow up to 35 grand, I have to pay it back, only for first time buyers, again. Now this has only just ended, I talked about this before, in Saskatchewan, you can get 10% back on 20 grand. You can get up to 2 grand back in the tax return if you spent 20 grand on housework. So I get some of that. I didn't spend 20 grand, but I spent as much as I could because I know I'm gonna get 10% back. And then there's a housing rebate for new properties. We're not buying a new property, this doesn't apply to us, but if you're buying a brand new property, this is how much you get back. If that was 150 grand brand new property. So like, I don't know how much that is, but like that's 8, 9, 10 grand worth of money that will come back to you within a couple of months. Because again, government wants you to buy a house and they don't want you to fall into bankruptcy doing it, because who takes care of you if you're flat out broke and can't afford to live? And your family can't help you. Government, right? So they want you to be able to do that. So this is some stuff we're going to start going through a little bit later, but that's just a general overview. I know I've talked for a heck of a lot there. But that's generally speaking, these are a lot of the fees that you get, right? So there's a lot of hidden fees. We started off with just, down payment, mortgage, utilities, heck of a lot more than that. There's fees, lawyers, taxes, realtor fees, all this crap there. So I want to go back to this thing here. So your time now to work on this is, if you haven't finished part 2, finish part 2. But if you have finished part 2, it's time to look at part 3 and part 4. So now that we have an understanding of an overview of it, and I'm not expecting you to have that memorized. There's a reason people go to realtors. That's a complicated process. It's hard to remember. So you're going to imagine you're a first-time home buyer. You're trying to find an affordable house that meets your needs. I want a mansion. I want a 4-car heated garage. I want a huge kitchen and a big backyard with a hot tub and a deck. I don't need all that, do I? So you're looking for an affordable house that meets your needs. Meets your needs, right? What do you need? If it's just you, you need a bedroom, a bathroom. If it's you and you have 2 kids, you need a house with 2 or 3 bedrooms, maybe 1 or 2 bathrooms, right? So we're going to start investigating that process and the cost. You're going to make a report on it. So part 3 is the research part of this. You're going to figure out what your needs are. You're going to find a house that meets those needs, or a condo. It could be in Wadena. It could be in Saskatoon or Regina. It could be in, you're like, I want to go to Calgary. You're just trying to find an affordable house. Okay. You personally don't need to be able to afford it. But like, again, we're just doing it. Like, imagine you're a home time first buyer and you have enough money saved up. So you're going to put some information of that house here. Hey, these are my needs, and this is what you need to know about the house. This is where it is. This is how much it costs. This is some details about the property, the square footage, the amount of beds, baths, is the basement concrete, or is it actually like, is it finished? Stuff like that. That's part 3, is you just you find in the house, put in some information on it, boom, done. That's it. Part 4 is you're going to take that information and you're going to start figuring out some of the specifics. This is all based on a 150 grand house right there. Those numbers are accurate in Saskatchewan. So you're going to be doing some investigation on it. Now, there is a sample mortgage rate here, because of course, everyone here researched banks like 2 weeks ago. And remember what the interest rate was?
about 5%. So again, going into a mortgage calculator. Oops. A mortgage calculator. This is the same one on this sheet right here. Again, I did a $150,000 home. That's the example we just used. Remember before, a year ago, I told you interest rates were stupid low. You can get a house for 1.5% interest rate over 25 years, paying once per month on a fixed term with a $7,500 down payment, because that's what you have to do. So 150 grand mortgage, 1.5% interest rate, 25 years, that's the standard. It's fixed payments and $7,500 a month. Boom, calculate that, punch some numbers, does some stuff. My total cost of my house is $176,000. So I'm paying about 26 grand in interest, right? So in return for me being able to get a house right now, I have to pay the bank an extra 26 grand over 25 years, right? That's the interest. That's the cost of doing business, the privilege I get to borrow that money to make that house my own when I can't afford it. So that's at 1.5% interest. Right now, your interest rates are, let's go BMO interest rate, mortgage. We're almost done. Here, boom, here's our mortgage rate, right? 5.45%. Watch what happens when I go from 1.5% to 5.45%. Nothing else changes, just the interest rate. What happens? My payment went from $600 to $900 a month. My interest went from $26,000 to $104,000 a month. So just a 4% interest rate has made that house almost twice as expensive. I'm now paying 100 grand in interest instead of 26 grand. So interest rate matters. This is why when I bought that house, when I bought my house, my personal house, I got in at the luckiest time ever. The interest rate was at an all-time low. You know what I did? I used that thing called fixed payments, right? Fixed means, doesn't matter that interest rates are now 5.45%. I'm locked in for another 4 years. So I'm good for 4 years. And in 4 years, because I did a 5-year term, I'm on year one of the 5-year term. When I go to the bank and I have to renegotiate, because of course the interest rate changes over time, banks renegotiate. What do you think is going to happen to monthly payment? Going to go up or going to go down? Up, right? I locked in at a good interest rate. Right now, interest rates suck. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to walk out crying is what's going to happen. Because my monthly payment might go up from this, I think it was $600 here. Now it's $900, right? $300 extra a month. And I'm paying way more interest. Way more interest. So you're going to find a house. You're going to look up an interest rate. You're going to use this tool right here, this tool, to get some of this information. And you're going to document this information. So you're going to make a nice professional report. I will show you some ways you can do this. I'm not expecting you guys to just go out of blind. I'll show you ways you can do this. This is an example report here. You notice how it has pictures of the property. It's organized. It has some charts here that explain where money goes. That's what you're looking for. This is something that is supposed to look professional, okay? It needs to look good. This is something you would expect of a business to do. This is going to be shared with the rest of the college. So you want it to look good, okay? So, sorry? It's going to be shared, yeah. Yeah, so having it look good, professional is the key parts here for sure. You want to make sure all the numbers are good. I don't want it to just be a blank Microsoft Word document listing exact. I don't want it to look like this. That doesn't look bad, but it could look way better, right? I want it to look something like this thing here. And again, I will show you how to make it look like that. That's okay. You're not expected to know how to do that. We'll show you really cool tools for that. If you ever have a job interview, I'll show you a program. You can be like, I know how to use this program. They'll be like, ooh, this is a good candidate. So part one, which everyone's done, you've researched actual house prices. Part two, you're answering these questions. This contains all the information you need to know. Everything we just did, I will upload as a video. I will upload that PowerPoint, so you have that all there too. Part three, find an actual house that you want to buy. that meets your needs. First time home buyer. Sorry? Well, I'm assuming right now, and I'm included. I could not just be like, I want to buy that house right now. No, it wouldn't be approved. But again, we're just imagining if you did have the money, what would be that home you'd buy? And again, you're not buying a man. Sorry? Because maybe you're looking at, I want to go to Toronto. Maybe you're looking at, I want to move to Toronto. I mean, your houses are about $1 million. Saskatchewan house is about 150 grand, right? So that's kind of why. Like $1 million in Saskatchewan, that'll buy you a freaking mansion with all that stuff I talked about. $1 million in Toronto or in Toronto, that's going to buy you a starter home. That same home in Toronto that's worth $1 million probably costs 150 grand here. So that's why. And I can help you like locate a home if you're curious. I know you guys can't afford it. I can't afford it. But you're just imagining if you could, right? You're buying a house that meets your needs. You're putting some information on it. Part 4 is we're taking that information. We're running a finance report, and we're going to make it look nice and neat. So that's what the overall end goal that we're getting to here. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys time to work. I know I've talked for about 40 minutes straight, so I will shut up now.